The moral weight of abortion is a topic that ignites passionate debates, often drawing upon religious texts for moral guidance. The Bible, particularly the Old Testament, contains passages that are interpreted by some as condemning abortion. These interpretations are often rooted in the belief that life begins at conception and is sacred from that moment onward. This essay delves into specific biblical passages, exploring their historical context and their potential relevance to the complex issue of abortion. It is important to note that interpreting ancient texts can be challenging. The Bible was written in a different time and cultural context, and its application to modern issues requires careful consideration. While some individuals and groups use biblical verses to condemn abortion, others argue for a more nuanced understanding of these texts. The debate over abortion often centers around the moral status of the fetus. Those who oppose abortion often cite biblical passages that emphasize the sanctity of life from the moment of conception. However, others argue that these passages need to be understood within their historical and cultural contexts. Ultimately, the question of whether or not the Bible condemns abortion is a matter of interpretation. There is no single, definitive answer that all people agree on. Unraveling Numbers. Chapter 5. The Ordeal of Bitter Water. Numbers chapter 5 details the ordeal of bitter water, a ritual performed on a woman suspected of adultery. If a woman was accused of infidelity, she would undergo this ordeal, which involved drinking a mixture that included dust from the tabernacle floor. According to the text, if the woman was guilty, her abdomen would swell and her thigh would waste away. Some interpret this passage as evidence that the Bible considers a fetus to be a person with full rights. They point to the punishment inflicted upon the woman if she is guilty, arguing that it implies harm to the fetus is equivalent to harm to an individual. However, this interpretation is not universally accepted. Others argue that the ordeal of bitter water was primarily a ritualistic test of guilt or innocence, rather than a direct statement on the status of a fetus. They point out that the text does not explicitly state that the woman is pregnant or that the punishment is intended to harm the fetus. The historical and cultural context of this ritual is also important to consider. In the ancient world, adultery was often seen as a violation of a husband's property rights, rather than a crime against the woman or a potential fetus. Exodus 21. A glimpse into the value of life. Exodus 21:22-25 addresses the scenario where a pregnant woman is injured, resulting in a miscarriage. The passage states that if the woman is injured and loses her child, the perpetrator should be punished with a fine. However, if further harm befalls the woman, then the punishment should be life for life. This passage is often cited by those who believe that the Bible attributes value to unborn life. The distinction between harming the fetus and harming the woman suggests a recognition of the fetus as distinct from the woman but not necessarily equal in value. However, it's crucial to approach this passage with an understanding of the legal context of the time. The emphasis might be on restitution for the loss of a man's property, as women were often considered property in ancient societies. The focus on the woman's well-being after the loss of the fetus could be interpreted as concern for her health and ability to bear future children. Psalm 139 and Jeremiah 1, known and formed before birth. Psalm 139 verses 13-16 speaks of God's intimate knowledge of the psalmist even before they were formed in the womb. Similarly, Jeremiah 1 verse 5 describes the prophet Jeremiah as having been known by God before he was born. These passages are frequently cited as evidence of God's awareness of and plan for individuals from the very beginning of their existence. These poetic and prophetic passages offer a glimpse into the awe-inspiring nature of creation and God's role in it. They highlight the intimate relationship between God and humanity, suggesting that God's knowledge extends even to the womb. While these passages emphasize God's foreknowledge and plan for individuals, they do not explicitly address the issue of abortion. Therefore, drawing direct conclusions about abortion from these verses requires careful consideration. The unholiness of blood, a timeless concept. The concept of the unholiness of blood permeates the Old Testament. Blood was considered sacred, representing life itself. This belief is reflected in various rituals and laws, including those regarding sacrifice and childbirth. Shedding innocent blood was seen as a grave offense. While the unholiness of blood is a significant theme in the Bible, its connection to the abortion debate is not straightforward. Those who oppose abortion may argue that the shedding of blood during an abortion constitutes a violation of the sanctity of life. However, others may argue that the biblical concept of the unholiness of blood is primarily concerned with the taking of human life after birth. They may point out that the Bible does not explicitly equate abortion with murder.